who is Chris Markr? First, you have to describe the Chris place. You come in, you take off your shoes, as a good Japanese, that you should be in Chris' presence. You enter a room which is, first, the thing that's striking is the number of video screens that there are. And there'll be piles of videotapes and films, and suddenly you'll hear a toucan bird, and then you'll hear a Japanese voice that tells you that it's 7:50 in Tokyo, and you enter this room, and it's like the cabinet of crazy, Chris Krasikatovich Markr. And now we're in the street of Tokyo, and this is this extraordinary festival. And now in Guinea-Bissau, and God knows those people are able to do beautiful mass. And now I will take you back to the theater where for the first time you saw Vertigo. It's playful, it's manipulative. He engages you to play with the 1,001 elements that are at your disposal. Generally, people want to tag Chris to his work. Okay, that's his, but it's an illusion, or it would be too simple.
He wrote me, "I will have spent my life trying to understand the function of remembering, which is not the opposite of forgetting, but rather its lining."
This is a voice, this is an author, this is a gesture which is so completely idiosyncratic, marked by the sleight of hand of the maker. You don't learn something specific about the author. You learn something about the act of authorship itself. Act of appropriation, act of celebration, the fact of being the archaeologist of a terrain. He works very hard at creating a kind of fictional machine, fictional persona. Within the first 5 seconds of the film, nothing is what it seems and everything is what it seems. And Chris is the person of all filmmakers who looks at life as a system of illusions. Like a good magician, he's blatantly telling you what he's going to do to you, and then he does it, and he does something else on top of that. So the magic is both constantly explained and constantly reaffirmed. It's telling you in some ways how the film is going to move, how the film is going to move. And of course, it's saying very openly, it's going to be very surprising. Soleil is a kind of voracious enjoyment of both high and low forms of culture.
Not understanding obviously adds to
The influences of Chris range from Jules Verne to Crazy Cat to Mussorgsky, and a whole series of things in literature, to Diderot, to Stendhal.
I was taking a picture without knowing that in the 15th century, Bachot had written, "The willow sees the heron's image upside down."
So Chris makes all the reference. It tells you exactly what he's doing. He's doing a grand map of how the imaginary functions.
He wrote, "Tokyo is a city crisscrossed by trains, tied together with electric wire." She shows
There's a whole aspect of the film which is a kind of fascination for Japan, which in some ways amplifies the kind of reflection that someone like Barthes did on Japan as the empire of signs. There's this meditation about the way Japanese advertisement conditions the city and how you're looked upon by the television that you're looking at. I mean, there's a sense that we function in the hall of mirrors. I think He sees the sign as an intricate part of what it is to be human in the 21st century. You know, how the psyche forms itself in a kind of playful, complicated relationship with the signs and symbols that media, television, etc., elaborate in front of our eyes. In any film of Chris, there's a whole series of elements. I think that the thing which is interesting is that those elements are there not simply for reasons of content, but they're also there because they have intrinsic properties of speed and texture, and so that they allow the film to have its peculiar gait. It's like a dance. I mean, sometimes it goes slow, sometimes it goes fast, sometimes it will spend some time on something, sometimes it will accelerate. In one fashion or another, they're also repeated. The zone and this Japanese manipulator and saturator of images that recuperates the past into some sort of key to the future.
He showed me the clashes of the 60s treated by his synthesizer. Pictures that are less deceptive, he says, with the conviction of a fanatic than those you see on television. At least they proclaim themselves to be what they are, images, not the portable and compact form of an already inaccessible reality. Hayao calls his machine's world the zone, a homage to Tarkovsky.
I think Tarkovsky is really a central figure for him, and Soleil is like having the secret map to a territory, and it's a secret map that constantly reinvents itself, I mean, in front of you. And you're fascinated by it every time, because somewhere, someplace, there is this strange enterprise of constituting yourself a memory that this technology was able to bring. And Chris is interested in how do you place yourself in the chain?
He wrote, "I've been around the world several times, and now only banality still interests me. On this trip, I've tracked it with the relentlessness of a bounty hunter."
This thing which is extraordinary about this film, and so modern in that sense, is that the way you move yourself through it. And I don't think you can move yourself through it in that fashion without being seduced. You're seduced by a voice who tells you about the wonderment of his travels. You're seduced because you are so much in and out of the film. You're seduced because really your capacity for attention or inattention is at the center of this film in a very different way than any other film can have. You know, in other films, if you're inattentive, it's because you're bored, you're unhooked, etc. But here, you are attentive or inattentive for other reasons.
In the eyes of people about to die.
I mean, it's like the miracle of floating attention. It has moments where you blank out. There are moments where you get surprised because you suddenly have looked at your shoe and you were in Japan, now you're in Africa. You come back because you have the sense that you haven't finished yet with it, and the film hasn't yet finished with you. What you're left with is this kind of thing that makes you be in the subway in New York and start looking at people like Chris Markr looked. You remember that Chris Markr looked at people in the subway in Japan. He's shown you many things that quicken the heart. And I think that what's implicated in that is, and what about your heart and how it quickens it?
Things.
There's one moment which absolutely every time gets me. You see two planes sliding on top of each other. And to me, it's like a perfect illustration of the awe and the mystery of being in front of newsreel footage. You know, it's like, and it, you know, I mean, this is going to be ridiculous, but it gets me back to me and my father at the corner of a table talking about 1936 in Spain. But what's even more extraordinary to me is when I come out of it, I forget exactly what he showed me, but I don't forget the intensity of the attention itself. Stendhal defined the work of art as a promise of hope. And I think that's what Soleil is. Despite its title, which alludes to a world in which there's no sun, Soleil is a film that alludes to a new age. It's the kind of imagination of the database. And Chris is a filmmaker of that period. It's this idea of, in some ways, being at your computer and being able to conjure up elements that you put together. It's like being the Wizard of Oz.
Even if the street
It's the kind of illusion that only great art creates, that you could do it too. And that's the giving of hope. That's really at the core of film like Soleil.